Well, this we haven't seen before in the North American Soccer League.
It was a very special time, no doubt about it.
It's still 0-0. 8 minutes and 5 seconds remaining in the game.
It was kind of the Rocky Balboa, the underdog going in against the big guns.
The Cosmos are on the verge of extinction.
Hockey was very popular in Canada, with no exception the Vancouver Canucks. But in 1979, all the sports teams in Vancouver took a backseat to Vancouver Whitecaps.
It's in! It's a goal!
To have the city react the way that it did after winning Soccer Bowl, for a kid from Vancouver, was as good as it gets.
You can call us a village, you can call us a town, you can call us whatever you want, but we're still the winners.
It's pretty safe to say that without that '79 championship, we may not have the Whitecaps in Major League Soccer today.
It's all over. The Vancouver Whitecaps are the new champions of the North American Soccer League, and they earned it every step of the way.
Sends it in the middle for Leonard Uzi, shoots and that'll do it.
Well, we had a good season in '78. Obviously, the next season became a very important season when we could really, realistically make a bid for the championship. And we did some recruiting.
I came over with Trevor Wymart, Roger Kenyon, Ray Lewington, a lot of Brits, some of them that I knew of and I'd watched in the old First Division. You know, I was quite excited. We were always known as the kind of British mafia. We had excellent Canadian players, Bobby Lenarduzzi and Bob Belitho, Buzz Parsons. All these players had such a big contribution to that season.
A pivotal moment took place around the halfway mark of the season when we brought in a player by the name of Alan Ball.
You could be the man to turn it around.
Well, I dearly hope so.
Who had played for England in the 1966 World Cup, and as a kid I watched that game, and you know, all of a sudden Alan Ball, I would be playing beside Alan Ball. Alan Ball was playing in Philadelphia. What had happened is a number of the rock stars, including Mick Jagger, had tried to replicate the New York Cosmos and bring in star players, and they didn't work out. So we were fortunate enough to be able to go there and say, can we trade Alan Ball to Vancouver? And he came in, and he was the catalyst, there was no doubt about it.
After having a solid regular season, Alan Ball coming in, we felt quite confident going into the playoffs. It depends what teams you play. We had a fairly comfortable first round against Dallas, and then we had to play LA with Johan Cruyff, and we knew that was going to be more challenging.
A sellout crowd, 32,375.
That game, it felt like, okay, we've arrived. There was an atmosphere in the building because we were down a game that was just willing us to win. The game was then. It was decided that the game would be televised live on local television because we'd sold it out well in advance. So it was like the whole city was behind us, and we managed to get the right result, and then that momentum carried on to the series against New York.
The New York Cosmos were such giants of the North American Soccer League. I mean, a lot of people forget that back then, you know, a European club couldn't just go out and get the best players of the world and bring them overseas. You know, so with the New York Cosmos, they had built a team with, you know, the legendary Brazilian Carlos Alberto. They had Franz Beckenbauer. They had Giorgio Canaglia, who's one of the most prolific Italian scorers of his era. The New York Cosmos wanted to dominate soccer in North America. And the Whitecaps in 1979 were really one of the first teams to challenge them on that level.
The city started getting a real buzz, and it was the first time during the New York Cosmos series that I saw flags, the Whitecap flags, flying from the cars, everybody wearing Whitecap jerseys, and I've never seen that before.
Within a day or two, the tickets had gone on sale downtown, and there was lineups literally round the block, and they sold out in record time, and it was like, wow. We knew it was a big game, but it was going to be something special.
Probably one of our most decisive performances of the playoffs was the game here, the first game against the Cosmos, where we won 2-0. That was a lot easier than I think any of us thought it was going to be. Different story going to New York and playing in front of the 50,000 plus people there.
Hello, I'm Jim McKay, and what the Cosmos must do here today is very simple. They must win 2 games in one afternoon. They had the same situation last week, and it's because of the playoff structure in the NASL. It's a home-and-home series. Vancouver won on Wednesday night in Vancouver. Now the Cosmos must win a regular game, and if they do that, then win a shorter 30-minute decider game to move on to next week's Soccer Bowl. To Canalia! A goal! A goal for the Cosmos!
It was a real tough battle because we tied the first game and went to overtime, and then went into a penalty shootout, which we lost.
The Cosmos have won it!
Then we had to go to that third game to decide who went through, and we tied that game as well.
So now we go back into the changing room. I think it was 15 to 20 minute break, and we got to come out and play another half-hour mini game. We played quite well in that mini game. We seemed to be the stronger team, and I actually scored a goal, I think, in that game. I hit a ball, it hit the crossbar, come down, the referee give a goal. We're going back to the halfway line to celebrate, and we look around, and most of the New York team have got the assistant referee, the linesman, up against the wall at Giant Stadium.
Okay, but the goal has been disallowed if it was allowed. It's still 0-0.
No score after another half-hour game. We went into another shootout. I scored. And remember Derek Posse was taking his shootout, and he said, "I'm going to chip the keeper." And I'm thinking like, oh no, don't do that, man. You don't miss. This is too important. Anyway, he went up, chipped the keeper, comes, dances back, does a little jig on his way back. Never forget that scene.
Then the drama of their last shootout was when their final shooter came in and rounded Phil Parks and was going to score. And I can remember looking at the clock, the 5-second clock that was in behind him. And I don't think I realized right away that he'd gone over time, but Phil Parks had. And then of course the referee indicated took too much time, and we were on to the soccer ball.
No, it's no good. Vancouver has won.
It was so intense, and how it went into overtime. It's just like when the Canucks played maybe the 7th game against the Rangers.
It speaks volumes that whenever anyone talks about the history of the North American Soccer League, they take that second game in New York with the mini game, and they say in the entire 17 years that the North American Soccer League existed, that was the greatest game in league history.
There was a Whitecaps fever that had taken place and was firmly entrenched, and we did our bit by continuing to get results and to get ourselves to the final.
We were in the locker room before we went out, and Alan Ball stood up, and I would say I'd known Bowley since he was 14. He was quite a remarkable guy. He said, "Listen guys, you're going to remember today for the rest of your lives. Let's make it a good day." That was it.
There's Alan Ball getting in the middle of Wymark. The shot is in. It's a goal. Wymark scoring his 2nd goal of the day. It's all over. The Vancouver Whitecaps are the new champions of the North American Soccer League, and they earned it every step of the way.
Having won and after supporting the team all the way along, and then having the team come over as a group and sort of acknowledge the fact that we were there and we weren't the majority of fans in the stadium, I thought was pretty damn fine.
Now they're coming to the Vancouver fans, and they're really letting them know it now that they love them. The Whitecaps. When will they get back to Vancouver? I can't imagine the reception.
We're on the flight back from New York, and our communications director at that time was a gentleman by the name of Jack Leonard. So he's coming around the plane, and he's handing out the parade routes to the players. And I can remember I was sitting beside Buzz Parsons, and when he handed us the parade routes, I looked at it and I said, "Yeah, this is nice, but I hope that there's people that actually turn up for the parade."
We get on the streets and it was just wall-to-wall people. It was just amazing, and I think that's what made it even more special, because it wasn't something we were expecting. Estimates from 100, 150,000. I don't know, I just know the route was packed. We get to Robson, they're hanging off trees and buildings, and it was just packed.
Last Saturday, Vancouver became a deserted village.
Jim McKay, the famous broadcaster from ABC, really did us a favor by, in that broadcast, referring to Vancouver as a village. And if we didn't necessarily need any more to unite the city, the province, and the team, but that's put it over the top.
They built a love for the game, and even when the league folded in 1985, it was these former Whitecaps that helped propel Canada to the 1986 World Cup. It was these former Whitecaps that put the wheels in motion that got the Vancouver 86ers underway and that dominated the Canadian Soccer League and continued to carry the torch for soccer in Vancouver for so many years later.
Vancouver Whitecaps, when I've been around them, were not the glamour team of most leagues, but they were a team that were feared, and I think that that's where we're going to get back to. I'm excited for the 40th anniversary and for all the new changes that are coming up. But you know, when you see, you know, every other day I bump into a fan that has special memories about the Vancouver Whitecaps in that era, that now it just goes down from family to family, and now as a 60-year-old club ambassador, I have fans that are in the 20s, you know, early mid-20s, because they knew about me and the Vancouver Whitecaps from their parents. So, you know, I'm very grateful that to be a part of that legacy, and that it still lives on.